In this video, I will show you everything there is to know about the new battery system in F126. I'm going to show you what each and every battery mode does, and I'm going to show you one of the most important racing techniques that you have to master in F126 if you want to be quick, lifting and coasting. And proper battery management starts with a proper understanding of the new power unit. With the new regulations that come with the 2026 season of Formula 1, the power unit is now a 50-50 split between the internal combustion engine and electrical power. This means if you ever run out of battery before your opponent does, you will be sitting duck. And this is why you have to learn how to manage your battery in F126. Since the F126 DLC is based on the F125 base game, a lot of the same battery modes will still be in F126, but their uses have drastically changed. You will still find none, medium, hot lap, boost, and overtake, which work in drastically different ways compared to last year. Overtake is kind of similar to DRS. You can think of overtake as an upgraded version of boost that gives you significantly more battery power to play with. This is the official overtaking tool of F126 because DRS does not exist anymore. And before you ask me, what's the difference between all these modes and when should I use each one? Let me explain. With the new regulation, battery output is not linear. This means the closer you get to 300 plus kilometers per hour, the less help you get from the battery, and how fast you reach this top speed depends on whatever battery mode you're using. None means the battery is completely off. You're not getting any help from the battery and it's all combustion engine. This is especially helpful in corners or at the end of straights before the braking zone. Medium and hot lap offer a boost in power, with hot lap offering more power and top speed for longer, but it does drain the battery a little bit faster. With hot lap being interesting on long straights when you want to keep the top speed a little bit higher. But all these battery modes start losing effectiveness the closer you get to 300 kilometers per hour. The same thing with boost, which has replaced overtake from last year. Overtake mode is now the only mode that allows you to breach this limit and to keep accelerating hard as you get closer to 340 kph. This is where you need to pay attention because this is where the biggest difference lies between F125 and F126 in the battery system. Boost has replaced the old overtake button, although it looks exactly the same. Overtake is blue and it is only available to you if you're within the 1 second window at the overtake detection point. In this case, boost becomes blue, and during the entire next lap, you will have access to more power when you use boost on the following lap. When you use boost, you can think of it as a quick burst of energy that allows you to accelerate very, very quickly for a short amount of time before slowly fading. So why does the battery keep draining even when I turn it off or I put it in none? This is because boost works the exact same way as the mushroom in Mario Kart. It's like what Kurt said, it's the exact same thing. There's no difference. Same thing for overtake. It gives you a quick burst of power, but the power curve looks very different. You can see in this graph that when you use overtake, you can accelerate harder and for way longer than when you use boost. In other words, this gives the car that has access to overtake a significant boost in the horsepower. The correct way to use battery works a little something like this. When you're mid-corner or you're coming into a corner, you want the car to be in none. This is because if you use medium in traction zones, you could get wheel spin and you will still lose battery despite not going any faster. So if you still have this bad habit from F125 where you leave the car in medium when you take corners, this is your sign to change this habit. You want to use boost and overtake when coming out of corners, especially in crucial overtaking zone. As the mushroom fades, you want to slap it in medium or hot lap. Then back to none before you get to the braking zone, rinse and repeat. Clipping is in the game, but it is far from super, and would not be surprised if Codemasters were to change this later on to make the car regenerate more energy before you get to a corner, just like they did in real life F1 at the Miami Grand Prix, because right now you do not regenerate any energy, if at all. The amount you recover and the rate at which you start recovering energy depends on the mode you're currently using. Hot lap offers nearly zero clipping. Whatever energy is coming out of the battery will still be used to keep accelerating. Medium will offer some clipping. You'll start to regenerate a little bit of battery as you get closer and closer to 310, 320 kilometers per hour. None is the one that offers the regeneration at the earliest, but this does mean you will not be as fast on the straight. So what mode you use will depend on whether you're attacking, defending, or you're just trying to look after your spot in the train. Now pay attention because there's going to be 3 battery saving methods that I'm going to be showing you in this video. First one, this is the most important of all, lifting and coasting. You cannot get away with no Lico in F126. This is a skill that you have to master because the difference between somebody that lifts and somebody who doesn't is about a second per lap, if not more, depending on the track. Now, LECO is a term that you may be familiar if you're coming from Le Mans Ultimate. It is usually done to save fuel as you coast into the corner. This is the act of lifting your foot off the throttle before you get to the braking zone so that your car can coast into the corner. F126, it will be used to regenerate more battery. How early you lift will depend on the corner, and it's also going to depend on whether you're currently under attack from the car behind. The problem is you cannot lift into every corner. LECO is most effective into heavy braking zones at the end of very long straight because you'll be carrying a lot more speed, and lifting will not cause you too much minimum speed going into the corner. But if you lift in the slow parts of the track, you might be losing significantly more time. How early you should lift will be covered in a LECO specific guide that I will release very shortly. So subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that. You have to experiment with different LECO timings. With the new regulations, we're all kind of in the same boat. We're all learning how to drive these new cars, and how early to LECO will sometimes come down to personal preference. But if you combine this to the correct deployment technique coming out of corners, you should be at a significant advantage already compared to the drivers who don't. Sometimes, before you get to the corner, you want to lift your foot off the throttle by maybe 10%. This will also kickstart the regeneration process earlier and allow you to regenerate maybe a little bit more battery in a cheeky way compared to your opponents. I call this the pre-lift. Think of it like this. As I get closer to the corner, if my current speed is 300 kilometers per hour, if I keep the throttle pinned, I will not start regenerating battery. I might gain 1 or 2 kilometers per hour before I get into the braking zone. If I lift off the throttle a little bit, I might lose 2, 3, maybe 4 kph. I'm gonna be braking anyways, so this makes virtually no difference, but I might be able to gain 5% battery before I get to the LECO or the braking itself. If you do this correctly over the course of a lap, this could mean 20 to 30% extra battery compared to somebody who doesn't. Where you do this will once again depend on the context. But for me, I personally find this to be most effective in places where I usually can't LECO. In the slower corners, I might want to lift the foot off a little bit so I can set up a better exit, and it's also going to allow me to save battery. The third and final technique that I want to talk about in this video is half coasting. This is something I started experimenting with in F126, and this is a little continuation from the previous technique. If you don't regenerate battery while going full throttle, what if I take the flat out corners by lifting a little bit? Now, before you call me crazy, let me explain. Let's take a look at the Australia chicane. As I start getting closer to the corner, obviously I want to LECO, but usually in last year's game, you can take this chicane fully flat out and wash wide on the exit. But what if instead of going full throttle, I take it at 80 or 90%? This allows me to cover less distance, but I will also maybe have 3 to 4% extra battery on the next straight. Now, your mileage may vary, but for me, I find that sometimes this can actually help because most of your pace comes from your battery anyways. Maybe it is best to lose 1/10 mid-corner, gain 3/10 on the straight. Let's take another look at Silverstone. Instead of washing wide here into turn 2 and 3, what if I stay close to the right and set up a better exit onto the next straight? Once again, this allows me to cover less distance. It's less stress for my tires, but I will also regenerate a little bit more battery. This might be super counterintuitive, but I didn't come up with these regulations, all right? And I wouldn't be surprised if the pro drivers are going to come up with brand new racing lines in the next weeks or months. Now, managing battery in the race is going to be a must this year. Like I said, you have to lift and coast, and you also have to watch out how you use your battery mid-race. This is because on most tracks, you can empty your battery in the space of 2-3 corners before you even get to the end of the lap. But by combining all the techniques above, using boost out of corners in crucial overtaking zones, using known in traction zones, and LECO into the corner to regenerate extra battery, you should have enough battery lap after lap to attack and defend with. Remember, if you can regenerate 2 to 3 extra percent than the other guy next to you every corner over a lap, that is about 20 to 30% extra battery. And over a race, that is even bigger. When trying to learn a new track this year, try to think of where the crucial overtaking zones are. This is usually where you want to keep most of your battery to attack or defend with, and also try to find the places on track where you can be more conservative and save more battery. Less is more. The question you have to ask yourself every single time is, how can I do more with less? And in qualifying, battery deployments can be much more aggressive. This is because your goal is to optimize one lap pace, and you do not have to leave enough battery for the next lap. And your goal specifically is to reach the start finish line with 0% battery. That means you've given everything and you've left nothing on the table. If you've run out of battery 2 to 3 corners before the end of the lap, you might have been too aggressive with the battery. But this also means maybe you didn't lift and coast enough on your quali lap, because that's right, you also have to lift and coast in qualifying this year. Try to figure out where you can gain the most amount of time on track with Overtake. Again, how can I do more with less? Of course, like I said, these are all things we still have to figure out and optimize for the new game. And if you want to stay up to date with these techniques and new information as they become available, you know what to do. I hope you enjoyed this quick guide on the new battery system and the F126 DLC. And let me know in the comments below which of the battery saving techniques is your favorite. I'm curious to see, and I always read all of your comments. Once again, I have new F126 content coming very soon. Stay tuned. This is Formula Kai signing off. I'll be seeing you soon.